I always love, and I realize that if we don't talk about our history, we forget about it or we cancel it because nobody else knows if you didn't live it, that it happened, but it really impacts the things we do today. So what I wanted to do as part of this panel, and we're not even gonna let Bruce introduce himself yet. Jean and I are gonna we have him in the hot seat, but we're gonna take just a moment of time to go back to where the community was when we started trying to find Bruce. We didn't know it was Bruce yet, but we needed to find Bruce. So how many of you were here in the community in 2010? Okay, so a fair amount. So many of you lived this story, but some of you will benefit, I think, from hearing it. So our family moved back in 2007, and we moved back to ranch. And a very important part of a rancher's story is the doctor for their livestock. And we had a great vet, Doc Nelson. But I think by the time Doc retired, he was 84, 85. He was getting ready to need a succession plan. And meanwhile, we moved back, we're ranching, the community's starting to look a little busy. And I will let Jean kind of talk about that story, where we were in the 2008, 2009, 2010, and then how it led to the all-on full court press to bring a mixed animal vet to the community.
So now I'm a historian.
She's the historian.
I'm 85 chapters, a young guy. This is a topic that, you guys have listened to me when I talk about how far we've come, but 2010 is not that long ago, and many of you know that during that period of time when we were not growing yet, we put a lot of time and effort into finding professional dentists and doctors. I spent a lot of time recruiting doctors, and basically we surveyed the needs of the community. What we did realize with Dr. Nelson was that you just spend here so long that you start taking those people for granted. And Nelson came to the economic development group and said, he was so bound to continue to serve the community that he didn't feel comfortable just walking away. So we got together as an economic development group, and some of you were part of that, and decided what would we do if we could actually recruit somebody to come here. So the good part about that is that Watford City and McKinsey County had worked pretty hard on having a structure that we could actually activate in case we found somebody that was of interest. But that goes back then to what we've done since then is really sell our community, because when you wind up recruiting people like that, whether it's medical doctors or animal doctors or whatever, we wind up being recruiters to recruit them to this community. And I'm not going to take a whole lot of time on this. I'm just going to tell you that the development group saw the need for it, and I remember doing it with dentists as well. I remember Dr. Ramage actually, is a classic example. He's retiring now. But he sent me a video of when we recruited Dr. Ramage, and he said the community sold him. He says, I sent a video up to Canada. I don't remember doing this at all.
And he sent me the video. Videos were a lot of work.
Yeah, he sent me the VHS tape back here. And it was a real concentrated effort. So why I'm here today is because this guy right here is a champion that I'm getting a little tingly about it, because he's a big thinker. He's exactly the right person for us at exactly the right time. But I think he'll tell you that the community attracted him as well. So I think I don't want to take much of your time, Bruce, because you've got a good story. And we have some challenges in front of us now that some of it is a little taken for grantedism, which I'm seeing happening in this community and disturbing me a little bit, that you can't just assume that you're always going to have a large animal vet, for example. We didn't realize when we were recruiting this that the need for taking care of Fifi was such a big business venture, and monetarily is actually more lucrative than going out and spending a day at the Veeder ranch for $250. I mean, it's just a whole different ballgame, and we're kind of behind Bruce now to tell us how we can make sure that we can service our large animal veterinarians and also still continue to grow small animals in this community and hopefully we don't take it for granted. I want you to hear Bruce's story, and that's probably all I'm going to say. So I'm going to turn it over to you. Tell them who you are and what brought you here and what your plans are. That's what I want to hear.
All right. Thank you, Gene and Vawnita. And yeah, it's been an amazing ride. And my name is Bruce Pedersen. I'm a 1992 graduate from Kansas State University College of Veterinary Medicine, to give you my genre. And yeah, Vawnita picked me up from the train as I came out to explore this opportunity out here. I kind of had an interesting career that, and again, I love looking back, but I really love looking forward and the possibility of where we're going. But yeah, Gene and the livestock community invited us out here, and just one thing evolved into the next. I came out here as that typical exploratory trip, and here I am 14 years later. Yes, and Gene's exactly right. My heart is in rural veterinary medicine, rural mixed animal veterinary medicine. And, you know, with the large animal is 8 to 10% of our revenue, but 60% of our work is how I often describe it. And Callie can attest to that. Anyone that knows large animal, it's a way of life similar to what mixed animal veterinary medicine is, and the number of hats that we have to wear, from first responder to grieving counselor to internist to surgeon it's really one of the last unique professions, I think, in the world. Of course, I'm biased. And then I would beg that every one of us in here shares that common, I always call it ineffable, this bond that we have with these animals that add value, especially, and I've always said it, even pre-AI, which is really what I'm excited to talk about. But then I could ask the banking community, where do people typically put their pets on their financial statement? It's like, we can't, you know, they mean so much to us, but we can't. And then we're entrusted with all this, you know, emotional responsibility and medicine and all this stuff that's bouncing around. And so that's why I think we are literally about to enter, you know, we've all been saturated with AI, and you're probably thinking, oh, not another AI talk, right? And I think this one is actually underhyped. And I just want to give you a quick kind of picture of how it's affecting our industry and where I see the potential. And a lot of it is applicable to every one of us. And I do think the knowledge workers, the white collar, you better beware. And I don't mean beware, I mean just embrace. It's like one of those paradigm shifts that if you don't, it's here. It's not even, it's really our ability to capture where we are with it. And for me, it's, you know, tied into this love of rural animal medicine and the ability to, you know, our goal is to bring institutional or better level care to anywhere in rural, where the real people live, I like to say. So yeah, the Watford City has been and continues to be just an amazing island, if you will, or those who are here, you know how difficult it is even to describe what Watford City is. And back to recruiting and trying to get people, particularly in the mixed animal, or the ones with the adaptability and the stamina to stay recruiting wise. And that's where I applaud these two and your, you know, your whole group, is that usually if you mirror what I have, usually when you get people here, they're like, oh my gosh, this is a beautiful place to live, raise a family. But that barrier of entry of North Dakota, that stigma that sticks with the tundra and the, you know, just bad. I wouldn't say bad, but just difficult to penetrate that, to get people here. Yeah, once they're here. And again, that's where I see from marketing to every aspect of our business is currently being touched. It's just about how much you want to dive in and take advantage of it. So no, I appreciate the history, and I like to just really look at the possibility and what we have here in this great community, which I still see that this demographic shift that is going to continue to go less urban, more, you know, the state of our world, who wouldn't want to live here, really, when you think about it. And I know we're biased but yeah, no, I'm excited. I really want to play that role of beyond excellence in veterinary healthcare. So with that, I don't know if Vawnita anticipated this, but I'm, like I say, really, really excited about how AI is gonna allow me to grow, and it's gonna help the capacity of what we do. And just so you know too, we work really closely. So a lot of it is skills, and those are the things I don't see going away. Surgeons aren't going to be replaced by robots. The ability to connect with people in their time of grief or in their time of trying to understand what's going on with their pets. That's the human side of what I see the future being. And when you have this tool of AI, that is really the piece that it's a little bit of uncertainty. Like we're all, and I describe mine, I'm totally fascinated, but I am terrified. Might be a little bit of an overstatement, but there's so much uncertainty of how it's actually going to roll out. Like as far as the amount of jobs it could affect or definitely change. And that's where I think being prepared and just baseline, understanding how we got to where we are and kind of where we want to go. And that skill acquisition, the human part of what we do, I believe is the most important. And so just to touch base too, with Jill, we work with the Skill Center, and we also work with the high school, and we really had a great program there which is another part of my passion, is inspiring the next generation, because we all eventually drop off the cliff, whether we want to admit it or not. So what we can do for our own succession plan as far as training, inspiring, how do we fill these gaps? And mine just happens to be in rural veterinary medicine, rural mixed animal, your classic, be able to do, I don't want to say everything, but elevate the skill level of what we're doing. So one of the things that we work hard with at the clinic is, and it's been frustrating, is how do you get retention and train skills? Like in an economic development world, that's really the key, is skilled workers. And if you look at the ability to manage AI or use that in itself is a skill. And so, I think we've all on the I don't know, pessimistic or objective side of looking at the state of you've seen the average IQ is going down, retention is down. In the veterinary world, the main test that you have to take to become a veterinarian is called the NAVLE. Pass rates are down. They're having to adjust scores just to get, so it's a major, major issue. And I've looked at, some of it has been when we shifted from screen time from print to screen time has affected our learning. Obviously, it's the scrolling and the brain patterns and all these things that we cannot ignore. And whether it's a student or whether it's, in our organization, we try to think that we're always a student. And I hope that all of us do that in whatever industry we're in, is that, this acquiring of new skills, new knowledge, is ever important. So how can we retool our workplace to better obtain and retain those skills? So that's kind of what, we really fall back to the level of our training, and that's, my focus has been on using AI, not just for the knowledge, and I think, I don't know if everyone here has heard one of my favorite analogies is the chess master. Did everyone remember back in, I'd been maybe it was the early 90s, when IBM's Big Blue was challenging the chess master, and everyone would say, can't be beat. There's no way that a computer can beat the chess master, right? Well, I'm here to tell you that the chess master's already been defeated in my world, and probably in all of your worlds too. Like the AI or the knowledge, and I always describe it as every textbook, every lecture you've ever heard, is now accessible in a language model that you can access. So the one that even if the dog comes in, for example, and you give it the basic information of what the animal is, what its symptoms are, and just some whatever parameters you have, boom, there comes your differential list, your treatment plan, your diagnostic plan, client education plan. I mean, it's here today. And then the other part about the naysayers are like, oh, a little miss one here or there, or can you? And I agree, you need a human in the loop, we call it. But it's calibrating. And there's a lot of terms out there, and that's part of what I would recommend is just getting familiar with even the nomenclature of what AI is. It's called recursive, so it self-calibrates or it corrects. So that's where, the sci-fi stuff that we can imagine, it's real. It's like, and that's part of that uncertainty that's scary where we don't know where it's gonna go, but I think we have to, to use it and to be able to offer that level of service. But, so yeah, I think the other piece, it's not gonna replace that yet, and I even say that qualified. I don't think we can ever say ever. But Optimus, I don't know how I don't know the level of depth that the crowd here has dove into it, but it's coming fast, and that's where, as a community, I think not shunning it, not ignoring what's happening elsewhere, because that's where this rapid shift that's going to happen. And I really love my position as well, because even though I might not make that money going out to genes, it still grounds me in reality of these animals. And it's kind of back to where what I mentioned earlier is that when you go home and you look at your dog, what do they think about AI? You look at your cat and say, you've ever heard of a agentic agent? And they're probably going to look at you with the same whiskery smile. But that's kind of that grounding force, and that's why I take it not lightly as far as a responsibility to help develop this next level of care that's coming to my industry. And I can also share part of the history that was with my son. Came out in the middle of that boom, and he was would have been 16, my oldest son. So I started with me and a couple teenage boys, if you can imagine, as my technicians and helping. So we have some memories. But I had no idea he wanted to be a vet. Well, one day he looked up at me while we were working at docks and he said, I think I want to be a vet. I'm like, okay, that's cool. And so now he's a veterinarian in New York City. Probably not going to be there forever, but it's a stepping stone. But he and I are working on one of these apps. And that's the other piece, is that any idea that you have for your industry, that barrier of entry of development is gone. He and I are not developers, and we have an app that helps with diagnosis. It helps with all these things. So that's where I may not be doing it justice, and feel free to shut me off whatever my time is. But no, that was I think the most relevant thing to all of our clients is at least addressing this new role that's going to play. And again, I'm proud to be even the heritage of ranching and even veterinary medicine in general is this foot of both worlds that I get to live in. And then the training, working with the students that we get to, and then how do we can all whine and complain about whatever generational title we've given or that we are, but how are we going to fix it? And I think that's what I love about this community is it's a really, hey, let's put our pants on, pull up our boots, and go to work. And so, yeah, we can whine all day, but we've got this new tool that is a huge opportunity. And sure, it's got some rough edges and it might bite, but that's where we are at the Watford City Veterinary Center, and we've got a lot of exciting things happening. One of the other things is there's a new veterinary college going in Billings, or it's proposed. It's not quite certified, but it's called a distributed model. So what that means is that instead of having an in-house veterinary teaching hospital associated with the university, they use veterinary clinics around in the region or wherever. So like the last year those students go and participate, of which the Watford City Veterinary Center is a certified clinic that will be hosting those students as part of their last year of education. And the one in Billings is the 5th of this distributed model. And the word on the street is that these kids are amazing. And it's because they're getting hands-on, interacting with clients and actual real-time job skills versus, the typical institution is they just aren't getting the hands-on, I guess, for lack of a better word. But so that's coming. I think first class will be next year. So again, how do we participate? How do we fix or prepare for some of the deficiencies that we're kind of coming out of? You can blame some of it on COVID. You can, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It's like we know what we want. We want to live in a great community with access to resources and services. And so that's where we are. Am I out of time? I never know. Sometimes when you're speaking time dilation and it seems like it's 2 hours and it might not be, but.
According to our schedule, you have 5 more minutes.
All
But do
right.
you want to launch into questions? Or do you want, because I have a couple.
Go
Unless
ahead.
you want
I'll
to
let
keep
you,
going.
no, you answer some. Like I said, I didn't stick to my script very well, but go ahead. You answer me some questions.
Okay, so, let me make sure. There we go. Are you guys still with us? How's that?
Yeah.
There we go. Sorry about that. Anyway, so here's my question to you, Bruce, and it has to do a little bit with 2 things that we've already talked about. I think the need within a community for economic diversification and sustainability is one, skills. And secondly, going back to your story of landing here in Doc Nelson's clinic, but then you invested in a very substantial clinic here, the brick and mortar pieces. The opportunity in front of you with the Billings model, the Billings hospital, or the Billings veterinary school, how do you align that investment in your brick and mortar with being able to host students here, develop skills here, and really creating a pipeline? And I'm almost backdropping it because when I look at this scenario, we get very excited as economic developers, Megan, myself, Jean, we get very excited because you talked about it, the biggest barrier for you is getting people to the community. Like, it's easier to get them to commit once they're here. Now you'll be bringing groups of students through. Talk a little bit about how important the clinic itself was to being able to do that, the brick and mortar aspect of that as well, to serving the community and serving the student hands-on experience.
Certainly, and I think it may not be what you think I'm going to say, but it's not so much the brick and mortar. I mean, it does help, but so much of it is the people, like I said, and that's what I'm excited about as well, is having this pipeline of, because a vet's not a vet's not a vet, like a dentist isn't a dentist. Like, there are quality over just warm bodies, and so I think the brick and mortar is really helpful, and it's really stand out. And every time I go to one of my colleagues and see what we did okay, we did fine with it, with the little shoebox at Doc's, and we have some amazing memories that unless you were there, you wouldn't even believe it. So I think, the services, the diversity, and I think like we did, as you kind of grow into it, we may do, and it was, again, like everybody in the boom that was here, it's hard to describe even. You're just doing your best to get ahead of it. And again, I couldn't have done it without the help of this group. But yeah, the future and how you attract that talent, I think you do have to have the good services. And just like this, I don't use this facility enough. When you come out here, and I mentioned to Vawnita, would you rather have a corner office in New York or this view like right here? This is pretty amazing. And I met Josh with this facility. We just have an amazing community that we've all seen come up. I just remember when Cashwise was a swamp, and all these resources. And I remember the shipman's white dog, one of our first ones that escaped. So like I say, all these stories. I thought, man, I'm gonna get run out of town. my one boarding client got away. And come to find out it was a Houdini, so I wasn't completely at fault. But no, long answer, but I think the diversity, all right, let's see what Gene says.
So where I'm at with this is those of you who are involved in the medical community and what happened with our healthcare center. 30 years ago, we were dealing with trying to save the healthcare community as well. And at the time, it was really difficult to recruit anybody in healthcare. What I see us doing, and what I hope the opportunity is for our veterinary medicine to follow in the leads of our medical community, working with the Vawnita Skills Center and McKinsey Health is becoming a leading healthcare provider in the state of North Dakota. And the ability to recruit doctors and nurses and medical professionals to this community has made that work. So that's what we're challenging Bruce with, is to say, if you have some of these ideas, we are the community to host it. We really are. And I think that historically we've been able to financially do what we need to do to make that happen. But I don't see McKinsey County, I see McKinsey County having the ability to be a primary leader in rural vet medicine for the state of North Dakota and Upper Midwest, as long as you hang with us, because you're the knowledge person. It's what we did with healthcare. You have to kind of wait for your time, and but selling the community today compared to when Dr. Ramage came is a huge, when you get him here, I talked to many of the people in the healthcare community, and they're going, yeah, it's a no-brainer for us. So I think we're poised, and we're probably pushing Bruce harder than he wants to be pushed, but he's the idea guy that knows the industry, and whether it's AI, I think that I'm really a champion of the relationship with the Vawnita Skills Center, because we've got these students as freshmen, sophomores, juniors that you want to go out to Billings, go to vet school, come back. I want them to be the vet that knows large animals as well. I think that small animal, I don't have any problem with small animal, but Vawnita and I and Callie and anyone else in the livestock industry knows that not only is it caring for your animals, but the genetics, what's happening. I look at the herd out there today and what kind of a herd it is compared to what it was 30 years ago. It's just phenomenal. And I think that's where the egg producers really want to make sure that we have that capacity to deal with that in our community. So that's why I'm championing Bruce. He can do it, and we can do it if we kind of listen to his ideas and do somewhat like we did with healthcare, listen to the professionals and say, there's an opportunity here. We're not interested in being the suburb to other vets. We want to be the center. And I think that's an opportunity for us, Bruce. I really do. I don't know what Dr. Nelson would have said about that, but
You would have an opinion.
but I mean, we know the value of that cornerstone vet. But I do think for our high school students, I have a granddaughter who I envision someday, I hope, that she's just an animal person. So for me to look at her in second grade and see that she might be able to go to the skills center, learn about that, she might be able to do an internship there. We can do that all here without sending them away. So that's what my vision is.
Perfect. I'll just follow up with that, and I do see, kind of the shifting thing as a sandbox. Like I said, my love is rural veterinary medicine, and it's right here in Watford City, but it's all across this country, and it's not the world of this shifting thing. And just a side note too is on the, for the bankers, the private equity, just as an industry announcement, they've, I think Mars family owns north of 50% of our whole industry, and that's not always good. So I still have a pretty wide independent street that says, how can we develop something where you retain that community level? And the problem with private equity and a lot of those is they just suck the money right out of the community. And so we really try to stay, and I think even having more transparency and where this money goes back in, and it's not taken out. But yeah, absolutely, Gene. And I think, again, this opportunity and this what can be is really limited to our imagination. But I hope that this is more than just a local clinic, that it becomes the example of what could be elsewhere.
Just kidding. Okay, so I was gonna point out your business model is I think very similar to what, and Neil was on the board when all of this discussion was going down, but very similar to what McKinsey Health chose to do, which was keep it local. The next step was grow regional hub model, and you're working towards that as well. If you haven't noticed, Bruce is a couple things, an early adopter, like way early. When your Lost Boys went back to college, I got to spend 6 months trying to help Bruce find that next group of workforce. And early adopters. So you were solving problems that a lot of businesses were having and probably still are having. And according to certainly what Keith hears from his clients or potential clients when he comes in, there's certain services that are still kind of difficult to find around here. Can you talk about two things that I think are laying out there as questions that people in the audience might have? One is, how did you fill some of those service needs? Like, you were using remote bookkeeping services, different services before people were doing that. I think that's common now, but can you kind of talk a little bit about how you approached that problem-solving piece, finding those resources, piecing them together? And then secondly, you talked about it, and I think it's something we're all trying to figure out how to do. We know that if we adopt AI the right way, we can become more efficient, more effective, improve the outcomes at our workplace and probably at our homes as well. But can you talk a little bit about how you approach learning the tool and being able to best leverage it? So that was a lot. I'll just let you talk about some things.
All right. No, thank you. And it is, some of the old cliches age me as well, but the pioneers get the arrows, the settlers get the land. So it's always about how do you stay ahead, but not too far ahead, the bleeding edge, the cutting edge, all that. And I tend to probably find myself ahead of things too much. And I have to pull back, or you get that look where people aren't getting it. And so it is it's a challenge. And where do you position yourself? And I think adaptability is the key, whether I'm hiring someone or whether we're introducing a new concept. And again, this new age of being able to have access is in itself can help you adapt. Like, it's amazing. And a lot of people are just using it as a glorified Google or the search engine, or even as a diagnostic tool. But then it goes beyond that, and you can actually have it as your marketing department, you can ask, it will go do the deep dive on the research and help you make some real-time data analysis of what your customers want. And by any means, we are far from perfect. And that might be the one thing is not, the basics are still the basics of taking care of your customers, listening. People don't want to talk to an agentic auto answering robot. They still, as good as they're getting, it can augment, but you still want to try to keep that human touch. And so, as I've recruited and, I think it's, the failure, and I know I had some notes in here on that. We have to remember that we learn as much from our failures as we do our successes. And it's how quickly you can process that, reiterate, and then go back to work. And in the medical world, it's called morbidity, mortality. So if there's ever a bad outcome, it's so important to not candy coat it. Like, you look at both the human field. One of my favorite authors his name is Atul Gawande. He's written Complications and several really good books. It just talks about, and if you don't know this, it might scare you, but the number 3 cause of human death is human error. So so I think as rapid as this change can have, the possibility for big missteps exists as well. So you've heard the term hallucinations and different things. So as we navigate this, it's important to not get too far ahead or to allow it to be stress test. And again, that's where this new realm of calibration, recursiveness, like, it is also helping you self-correct. So once it gets to know you and your business, and it's breaking into the therapy world, like talk therapy with your agent. Sounds crazy, but no, it's here. So I don't know if I answered all the questions, but part of it is, I'm definitely guilty of, and that's why I think maybe I was born for such a time as this. So I'm really excited, and that it can take whatever I can throw at it, and it can tune me down too. And part of the settings on your AI is, it's built to engage you. So you can go in there and jailbreak it. So there's ways that you can tell it to be more candid, to not, don't just sugarcoat it. And you can yell at it, you can call it what it wants. In the end, it's not human, and I'm not a fan that it's gonna have rights or anything. It's just a tool, but it's one like we've never ever had before in human history. So open it up to more questions, or?
I think so, and we've shared a couple podcasts back and forth lately, and the one that Bruce shared with me, I did listen to it. I can't even remember what it was called, but it actually was a little bit scary. But if you haven't listened to any AI podcasts yet, a real fun one to enter into the whole area of what the industry is shell games. So I'm gonna recommend that one because it's a fun listen. But are there any questions out there for Bruce? Yep, Aaron has one. I'll run the mic around. Bruce, can you yell back so everybody can
All right.
hear maybe?
On in the beginning anyway, so.
Bruce, thanks for this.
Sure.
Just because I'm ignorant to veterinary medicine, what are some of the difficult barriers to entry towards starting a practice? That's my first question. And then how would that be different in North Dakota than say like if you would have done this in Kansas or Nebraska or something like that also is going to have large barriers? What makes North Dakota different than others?
Yeah, certainly. I think, again, that's always rattling around the back of my mind is, again, like as Gene said, there's an opportunity here with the ability, standardization protocols, Ray Kroc and McDonald's, like how you do it. So I don't think it's exaggerating, but I think a veterinary clinic could be started in about 4 hours. And I mean that with if you drop ship the lab equipment, number of workstations, everything's connected now. So it's really the limiting factor is quality people and people that can adapt. And that's where enter in the training, and even the training that you do, our institutions have failed us. I'm not saying this institution in particular, but our college institutions and the quality of so I'm saying as an industry and as anyone in industry, we have to just take it on ourselves and just augment what we have. And I don't mean the high school at all. I mean like the veterinary students that are coming out. You got to find the right ones. You just have to. But if you get the right person that's adaptable and willing to adopt and has strong ethics and integrity, then you can help them. And because it's still. And one thing that I've, to Gene's point too, on the possibility or the sandbox that's here, is can you create a brand? Like if you got enough consistency, because part of it is it becomes a personality business. It's just like the doctor. And for those of you who watch House, bedside manner isn't necessarily correlated with competency. So now we've got this engine that's competent, like it's smarter than me. So if you can create this process, these workflows, these things, and then you can expand it. And that's the other thing that Jill and I have talked a lot about. The opportunity is really with what we call the mid-levels. So one vet is going to be able to expand his capacity phenomenal. So it's going to be like the RNs, the nurse practitioners, the people that are actually delivering, putting in the catheter, taking the imaging. That's going to be the limiting factor. So it's really a human resource limit rather than the idea, even in its rough form right now, is not. It's all, and it's trending easier by the hour, if not the day. So I hope that answers your question.
And that's where I see the veterinary skills center coming in, because we found out what we've learned through all of this is it works better to grow our own. The people who understand what it's like to live in a rural community, some people can adapt to it, but people who know it are probably our better recruits. We could train those people who have interest now to do these things, whether it's from Watford City or a rural community. They're probably going to be rural-oriented and more apt to be comfortable working at Gene or Vawnita's in December when it's cold outside and you don't have a clinical model where it's warm and it's tough, hard work. But there are people in this community that are made for that. And so I just keep coming back to that as that whole idea in the medical sciences or any profession can be, is to give the opportunity for people who grow up here to actually train here and stay here. It's a better recruitment model than trying to find somebody to adapt them to a community like this, because it's a pretty unique place. So that's always been my challenge to Bruce, and that's where I see the high school and the skills center and what you're doing, introducing our students to what they can be, because they are, AI doesn't scare them a bit. They're probably gonna go to that first, but they need a human presence like you to model between AI and what it takes to deal with animal agriculture in a rural setting. And I don't, again, want to exclude what happens in small animals, but it's kind of a no-brainer, and that's an easy thing. We in the ag community, we're just really challenged with keeping people who can service our industry. Just so you know, and Bruce didn't talk about that, they're doing what we're doing in the equine industry and the beef industry specifically, to the point where you can almost genetically tag every individual animal that comes off your farm. What we've done with production, all based on good animal science. What we're doing production-wise, I can pretty much go to grocery shop what kind of animals I want on my place. That all of the genetic modeling and all that thing comes through vet medicine is something we have to think big on. So I'm trying to say, it's not just about stitching up a C-section. It's about planning what your herd's going to look like for birth weights and weaning weights and ability to utilize the feeds that we have. All those things are things that I'm interested in. And again, we have those students in our FFA programs, for example, that tend to want to do these kind of things. I would just soon train them here. So that's why I'm sitting here.
No, and I also, back to the human resource and Gene's comments, like it or not, there's a bell curve distribution of students and capabilities. So, or like if you look at a herd of colts, you want to have an eye for those good employees. And most of you, when they walk in the door, there's still that intuition that AI hasn't got. It's that blink reflex where you look in their eyes and say, I think I'm going to give this one a chance. Not always right, but there's still that piece of it. And yeah, that is right. And even have to share one other story with the Shipmans. So their son, Jason, who I've recruited since pretty much he graduated, life takes him in different directions and spouses and everything. But we've got to see a lot come through. So I think that's the thing, is the pipeline. You just want to get, it's a numbers game. And so but to attract, you have to have a certain level or people aren't going to look. And one thing we've even looked at with the facility, and I don't know with the tech space, Coy and Josh, you've seen some of these really high-end tech places that have, like, they've got their own space just like this, where they're like, and why wouldn't you? Like, if you really want to get that talent, they've got so many choices now. It's like, where do you want to go? And I do think in my industry, I have that unique, because there isn't, it's a pretty early passion calling. Most vets in the industry, myself included, knew at an early age that, man, that's what I want to do. And so if you can find them at those right points and inspire them and fan that flame and lead them down that path, and then, whether it's here or, be the kind of the nidus or the place that would fill those needs in other places. And then back to that model of a loosely connected but independent is kind of what I'm thinking, where, sharing ideas and the telehealth, a lot of it has been, okay, I want to consult with this specialist, but a lot of it's just internal, like being able to share with your colleagues, because we're all growing. And one of my other famous quotes is, today's state of the art is tomorrow's malpractice. So like, to say that we know it, the first step is uncertainty. It's like, I'm giving you my best, and then we're dealing with a biologic agent, and you've got a human element, and you've got training, you've got everything that's happening in a busy clinic. So that's why I think, being able to turn all these dials, but it's still based on quality people. So you're 100% right.
Question for you: what's happening on the state level with loan forgiveness and recruitment things and numbers of students that we can place in vet school? I mean, I haven't kept up with that since I worked with the university. But
they do have a loan, vet deficient areas of which we have been identified. So and I do have a new hire coming on board in June, and he's hopefully going to be, he applied for that. But it's always a moving target. And just so you know, vet students come out with about $400,000 in debt. And I mean, that's nice. It's a range, obviously, but not uncommon. And then they, how do you pay that? I mean, do the math. Sure, we want to help do Gene's cows for $250, but in the end, we have to pay him to help pay his loans. There's just this economic sustainability, which is the other thing that I think we have to do. But and then you enter private equity where they're offering these crazy salaries at the expense of pet ownership. I can't tell you how many times those of you who've been clients may think I'm high priced, but you haven't been to the urban areas, and most people will say, "Is that all?" Or I just look at, and in talking with Kipling and my son in New York, I had a friend. She was California, but she said 2 nights in the ER with the MRI was $12,000, and I'm like, sure. And I get a uterine infection that I nurse up to $1,200, or and it's perfectly, reasonable. It's a major surgery, and you've got all this investment. You've got the bricks and mortar. You've got your turnkey costs of facilities, staffing, and then to try to do, ongoing training and provide that next level. It takes money. So that's the one thing that I think people forget sometimes, is just because we're a vet clinic, it's just like a bread store. You still have, those human resource costs, insurance, liability, like all those things that take to just open that door. And anyway, so but on the I think we're going to probably enter in. I felt the market shift a little, in that there's more vets out there looking, and I think some of it may be a reflection of AI, some of it may be our economic, the ups and downs, whether we're the R word or not, but people will still spend money on their pets, but just not as freely. And then COVID years, we had a lot of pets. People got pets, and now that's kind of, I wouldn't say drying up, but there's less pet visits nationally. If you look at those numbers, and again, AI, you can have a conversation with the veterinary economics, and what's the outlook, what's the forecast. And I think being flexible in that too, which you can sit down and have a conversation with your client and say, yeah, we could do this, but we could also do this, this, and this, and not feel guilty about, and a lot of the schools and the thing is all about the gold standard, like make you feel guilty if you don't always do this one. I'm like, every gold standard is relevant, really. And that's where that trust factor that we have of like, hey, let's sit down together and make the best choice that we can. Good enough?
It was great. It was great. Bruce, I want to thank you. Dr. Pedersen, I want to thank you. You chose Watford City. The community has benefited so much from that choice. Lots of personal stories of saving our animals, and just really, it means a lot. It's a personal relationship when you have both livestock and pets. They are very personal, so thank you for choosing Watford City. I think that maybe some of you who don't have pets are just meeting Bruce for the first time. I hope you take the time to visit with him. Because again, early adopter, things that blow your mind and make you go back and check and think things through, and I'm just so appreciative that you're here, so appreciative. We need more entrepreneurs, and we need to definitely keep connecting entrepreneurs with each other, because that's what will continue to grow our community, a sound, stable, diversified, I can't say anything enough.